Hi, friends in COM 707 Communication Philosophy. My name is Colin Steele, and I will be discussing with you McLuhan's Understanding Media, the Extensions of Man, chapters 23 and 24. So before we begin with the specific content or ideas that McLuhan presents in chapter 23 and 24, I thought it would be fitting to unpack the medium as message, also the hot and cold mediums, and mediums as active metaphors. So this first major idea that McLuhan presents is the message of a particular medium is not the actual content that we produce or consume. Rather, it's the impact the medium has on society. It is the change of scale or pace or pattern that it introduces into human affairs. And so with new developments in technology, we often see a change in human behavior. You know, think about our cell phones, our personal devices, and how they manipulate and influence our daily routines. The second major critical point that McLuhan talks about is this hot and cold mediums. And so he talks about the classification and the distinctions between different mediums and how they I guess, stimulate participation from the audience. And so looking at hot mediums, this is a medium that extends one single sense into high definition. And that high definition is essentially a state in which we are flooded with a lot of sensory data. And because we have so much data, it requires less participation from the audience. And so participation could be cognitive and mental work that's required to decipher the meaning of a particular message. And so the classic example is, you know, a highly pixelated or high definition picture, like a photograph from a camera, versus a cartoon sketch. Now, you know, looking at a cartoon sketch, we would have to fill in more of the data to interpret the meaning behind that. But with a photograph, we have all that visual data available to us. The cool mediums, on the other hand, provide low definition. So low definition is the state of limited contextual information, and because we have that limited contextual information, it does require more participation or that cognitive and mental work in order to decipher meaning. So when I first read this hot and cold mediums and this idea by McLuhan, I immediately thought of rich and lean communication channels, which is outlined by media richness theory, and how that rich communication channels often provide us with a lot of sensory information, oftentimes nonverbal communication cues. And because we have access to all of those nonverbal communication skills, such as this presentation, you can see my facial expressions, you can hear my intonation patterns in my voice, you can see my hand gestures, right? All of that information allows us to decipher a message much more quickly and accurately. Now, if you just had a video record or audio recording of my voice without any visual presentation, without, you know, the video of me presenting this, chances are that would require a little bit more participation on the audience end. So this leads me to this third critical point that McLuhan talks about, and this is active metaphors. And essentially, McLuhan would argue that all media are active metaphors in their power to translate experience into new forms. So it's essentially taking, you know, an experience and transforming that experience into a new medium, and by virtue of that, enhances and provides new meaning to that experience. And I think this really points to a broader, a deeper philosophical point that, you know, part of our human nature is to be creative, and that creative human nature is derived from God and reflects our physical expression or manifestation of God's design. So God is, a very creative being. And because we share in his image and likeness, we too have inherited to a certain extent that creative nature to express ourselves. And this is, through human expression. And human expression is in part, are designed to control our environments through the creative endeavors. And these endeavors become extensions of that human expressions. So we could look at art, literature, music, architecture, and so forth. So the painting on the right is the famous painting by Leonardo da Vinci in the 15th century entitled The Last Supper. Now, as Christians, this is a pivotal point in our faith, the Last Supper. Now, Leonardo da Vinci took a canvas and some paint and created this masterpiece. And this medium, art, canvas, and paint, has become a metaphor that translates that experience that Christ and his disciples had. And by virtue of that, has created a new form of experience. And so these are active metaphors. So we could look at all sorts of different mediums and see how those mediums are translating those experiences into new meaning. And so again, this is what McLuhan would argue, that media, as an extension of humans, acts like a metaphor that translates information. So those are the three major contentions outlined by McLuhan. So let's go ahead and dive into chapter 3, ads, keeping upset with the Jones. Now, let's take a look at the nature of advertisement. So according to McLuhan, the main purpose of ads is to drive consumerism by portraying a product as an integral part of social life. And that reflects the programmed harmony among all human impulses, aspirations, and endeavors. And so, again, it's not really the content of the ad that really matters, but advertisement as a whole is really a medium trying to place a product within the integral components of our lives. The pervasiveness of ads and their ability to tap into the subconscious changes with the development of new mediums. And so we can see this with print, where there was articles about products, and now we have flashy imagery of a sports car now on TV. So the medium is the message. How does this relate to ads? So while ads in of themselves are designed to connect the lived experiences of the audience in order to subliminally drive human consumption, McLuhan argues that their existence is the result of the toil, attention, testing, wit, art, and skill of many people. And so to really develop a persuasive, effective advertisement, that requires a lot of research, testing. McLuhan talks about $1 billion budgets for marketing agencies. So really the pervasiveness of advertisements is really communicating the existence of all the work behind the scenes, and the reason why corporations and organizations are pushing these advertisements. So let's take a look at these hot and cold ads. The development of new technology and mediums introduces a new form of advertisements. So McLuhan specifically points out the graphic revolution that transformed culture away from the private ideals. And so the private ideals were often, in the papers. And so we read the papers and we kind of have this private ideal. But now advertisement is mass produced, and it's manufactured cultural ideas in which ads are the message of the corporate image. And so we see that corporate images are telling us the type of cars we should be driving, the type of outfits we should be wearing, the type of behavior that's acceptable or unacceptable. And so it's this corporate image to a certain extent that is driving our societal norm of behavior. So let's look at the key takeaways from chapter 23. Advertisements communicate the complex process of skill work that goes into crafting the image and organization of society. And the content of ads reflect the manufactured ideal of society, yet advertising as a process reflects the all-inclusive and never-ending process that is the image of any group, corporate enterprise. So after chapter 23, McLuhan jumps into games, the extension of man. How are games an extension of man? Well, we need to look at the nature of games. So games are popular art, collective social reactions to the main drive or action of any culture. Games acts as an extension of social man by releasing the stress of everyday life. Games are dramatic models of our psychological lives, providing release of particular tensions. And sports are collective expression and dramatization of our inner life. And so games are, communicating, these different things. Either it's an escape from reality, or it's communicating the need to release tensions, to let loose a little bit, or sports games is really an expression or a dramatization of what we experience in our everyday lives. And so we could look at games as metaphors. So games reveal information about society that acts as a medium of information and extension of individual or the group. It provides an artificial paradise and translator of experience that are measured by the effects on individuals. And games acts as metaphors that bridge the unsensible situation and the real stakes. So the key takeaway from chapter 24 is that games are situations contrived to permit simultaneous participation of many people in some significant pattern of their own corporate lives. And of course, to conclude, if we take a look at a quote from Marshall McLuhan himself, it is we who shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. Thank you so much for listening.